There's a very serious conflict that has been raging through the guitar community basically since the dawn of time, and I'm here to discuss this very serious topic. What is the people's key, the key of G or the key of D? What if I told you that maybe the combination of these two polarizing keys could come together to form one ultimate people's key, all right? So we're gonna talk about the key of G and the key of D together and how you can combine them to make some really cool things, and also maybe some key differences between the two keys, all right? So what we're gonna start off with is just something easy that you can apply to your playing right away, and then as we go through the video, we'll get a little more in the weeds of the music theory and the different chords and stuff that we could use. But right off the bat, we're gonna take the D string and the G string and go open 2, 4, open 2, 4, okay? So, these are just 6 notes. You don't even have to know the names of the notes. It'll help you out in the long run, but anytime you're in the key of D or the key of G, you can use these 6 notes to help you out and inflect chords and stuff, all right? Now, it's really cool because the open strings help us out, right? So you can really kind of rip through this if you just practice doing this in order front and back. You can hammer on. And again, you'll get faster and kind of be able to do impressive things just by drilling that a little bit. And then we can do it in between chords. So for instance, let's do like a D major chord to an E minor chord, okay? So I'm just gonna play D major, then open 2, 4, E minor, or G major, okay? And now the reason this works is because all these notes are in the same key, right? So if we did name these, we'd have a D, an E, an F sharp, a G, an A, and a B. So it sounds kind of familiar, right? Because if we start on the D and we go, there's the full D major scale. The only thing we're leaving out is that 7th note, which is a C sharp. And then if we actually started on the G, we'd go G, A, B, skip the C, D, E, F sharp, G, right? So by just playing these 6 notes in the middle, we're actually kind of leaving out the ones that are problematic in between keys. Like I said, G would have a C instead of a C sharp. D would have a C sharp instead of a C. That's the only difference. It's just one note difference, but that one note makes a big difference in populating chords and stuff, right? So when we start talking about how that C or C sharp can impact the rest of the keys, let's go through just the chords in each respective key and then talk about why this is kind of like some cool stuff that you could do. So let's give the underdog D major, because I've traditionally said that G major is the key of the people. The underdog, let's give it first crack at it, all right? So we've got D major as your 1 chord, E minor as your 2 chord, F sharp minor as your 3 chord, which I think the only thing, we'll get to this more later, but I think that F sharp minor is what makes G the people's key, because F sharp minor is a tough one and you don't see it as much, right? The 4 chord would be G major. The 5 chord is A major. The 6 chord is B minor, that relative minor. The 7 chord is C sharp, half diminished, minor 7 flat 5, and then the 1 chord is D. So, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1. Now, any combination of those chords is gonna sound great, and you can always add some little hammer-on, pull-off dealies in between there, right? Now, let's just focus on this F sharp minor. Again, problematic for a lot of people because it's tough. Playing that E string rooted bar chord where it's 2, 4, 4, 2, 2, 2 is a real doozy, right? But if you play it like this, F sharp minor 7, where it's really just second fret on the E string, second fret on the D string, second fret on the G string. Now you're starting to be like, okay, well now I can see where, look at that group of 2 and 2 together. Open 2, 4, open 2, 4. We don't have to play these notes individually. We can double stop them together. Okay? So let's say I have like a D major to F sharp minor to G to A. This would be a 1, 3, 4, 5 progression in D. I can see how I inflected each of those with just these notes, okay? So for the D, I'm just gonna set the tone. Then for that F sharp minor, I'm gonna get those double stops, just 4 and 2. I'm just thinking of frets here. And then I'm gonna open it up to G, which again, having them open, just D and G, those are notes in a G major chord. And then here, this is the most underrated move, I think, is taking a G major chord and then getting those G string notes open 2, 4. A, D. Okay, so that's just one kind of interesting thing that you can do with these. Now let's play them against the key of G chords. But before we do that, let's talk about the sponsor of today's video, Elixir Strings. You guys knew it was coming. You knew the guitar sounded great, so you're like, oh, he obviously is playing Elixir Strings because they're the best sounding, best feeling, longest lasting, best value in the string game. I thought that maybe I was holding this box upside down the entire time, but I wasn't. I should have trusted my gut instincts. Elixir Strings are the best. They sponsor a ton of videos. They're the only strings I ever use on any acoustic or electric instrument. So show Elixir some love. I have an affiliate link in the description. It helps me out immensely when you guys click that link because it just keeps me coming back for more. So yeah, if you don't have any Elixir Strings, get yourself some. If you do have some, maybe try the electrics out if you haven't done that. So I'll have affiliates to both of those in the description. Thank you so much to Elixir Strings for sponsoring the video. Back to the holy war between the key of D and the key of G. So we just hit all the key of D chords. Let's go through the key of G, right? The up until now undisputed on this channel people's key of G. G is the 1 chord. A minor is the 2 chord. Remember, in the key of D, A major was the 2 chord. Now it's A minor. The 3 chord, B minor. Okay, so G major, A minor, B minor. Again, that B minor was also in the key of D as the 6th chord, but now it's the 3 chord. C major is the 4 chord. D major is the 5 chord. E minor is the 6th chord relative minor, which in the key of D was the 2 chord, right? So they share a lot of these chords, which we'll talk more about. F sharp, not minor 7, but minor 7 flat 5. Or half diminished, right? And then G. Okay, so let's talk about really quick, just by taking a C in one key and a C sharp in another key, we have some common chords and some different chords. Basically, any chord that there's a C in is going to be different, right? G major is just a G, B, and D. So it exists in both keys, either the 1 chord in the key of G or the 4 chord in the key of D. A is minor in G and major in D. Pretty cool, right? B minor is minor in both keys. C only exists in G. So if we see that C, we can rule out essentially staying in one key, the key of D. Then D major obviously is a chord in both keys. E minor is a chord in both keys. And F sharp is diminished, half diminished in one key, and full on minor 7 in another key, okay? But what if I told you we could combine these keys and everything would be fine? All we have to do is play the major scale, the G major scale, but add a C sharp to it, right? So G, A, B, C, C sharp, D, E, F sharp, G. Is that such a big thing? It's so funny, like we're so used to only 7 notes being in any key. It's like adding another note. It's like, oh, what have you done? But if we just kind of combine them, it's like you can make this work. So one thing that we could do is maybe just do a progression and have both A major and A minor in the chord progression, okay? And then there's a lot of songs that have this. In fact, Lucky by Radiohead is a song that does this. E minor, A minor, G, minor, E minor, right? And then we get to the chorus, A major. Right? That's just one off the top of my head, right? There's a lot of things that we could do. Let's make up an example where we're just playing G. And then we're gonna add something from the D string, open, 4-2, G, A minor, B minor, G. Now let's go to a D chord and just kind of hang out here. A major, E minor. That didn't sound so bad, right? And a lot of the reason is because when you're just using like G and D and E minor and B minor, we can't really technically tell which key we're specifically in, because like when we went through all those different rundowns of the different keys and the different chords that populate it, well, they both had a G major and a D major, and they both had an E minor and a B minor. So if you have something like that, well, that A major or A minor is a cool place to maybe pivot back and forth between. You could also maybe try an F sharp minor in there if you want. But as long as you don't play either a C major or a C sharp minor 7 flat 5, that root note has a lot of consequence in what you're doing. Now again, you can totally play it and come up with cool chord progressions and stuff like that. But I think it kind of works a little better just sneaking it under the radar if you do kind of pivot off that A major and minor, or maybe like that F sharp minor 7. Having that in there. And specifically this version of this technically shell voicing, if you don't know what a shell voicing is, it's essentially just like the greatest hits of a chord. Because if I'm just playing 2E, 2D, and 2G, I'm really playing the root note of an F sharp minor. It's minor 7, right? Which again, E is an E note, D, E, F sharp, which we already established because it's the second fret on that D string. It's in both keys. So even if an F sharp is a diminished chord, it still has a minor 7. And then the second fret on the D string, which is an A, which is this minor 3rd. So if we leave the 5th out of it, we still get the benefits of hearing like an F sharp minor 7 chord, but it can exist in both the key of G and the key of D. And again, if you don't know that trick, you've never clearly played in the key of D, because the best thing is just doing that little hammer on with that pinky on the high E string, D suspended 4. Another thing I want to talk about is probably the most slept on chord in between these, because it's like, all right, we're talking about key of D, key of G, combine them. What if we just straight up combine those two chords, right? What if we just have a D major with a G in the bass? Craziness, right? Have you ever even seen that chord? This is one of my all-time favorite chords. In fact, the challenge that I'm giving you and myself is to write a song using this chord right here. D major over G. Which is funny when you think about it. There's that suspended chord, right? And this is the difference between like a suspended chord and like an add 11, whatever you want to call it. We have a D major and we add a G on top. Basically, we're taking the 3rd of this chord and suspending it into the 4th of this chord. That's why it's called a D sus 4. We no longer have the 3 in there. The 3 becomes the 4. It gets suspended up to the 4. And that has a vibe for sure, right? But when we put that under the chord, has a totally different feel, right? So I think it does matter what register you're adding or subtracting notes from. And in that case, we still have the 3rd on top, but we have that G below. And again, just the 3rd of a D major with a G under it is actually root note G and F sharp. What's that? Oh, the greatest chord of all time, G major 7. So it's like you get a hint of that major 7, but it's also, you know, kind of like a hint of that sus4. So it's the best of both worlds. And that's the whole point of this lesson. It's like, oh, cool. Well, when you think of, instead of like, I got to stick in this one key, it's like, all right, what's another key that's really close to it? And that's where the circle of fifths comes in handy, because it's like G, A, B, C, D, which I did a video on the circle of fifths last week. I'll link you to that in case you didn't see that. That one did pretty well. It's like, oh, well, that information isn't just music trivia. It actually gives me a whole population of chords and notes that is very close to the one that I'm using. In fact, it's just one note different. Like I said, just a C in the key of G and a C sharp in the key of D. So that's why this stuff is, I think, really important. We could also, you know, do this combining any two keys, which maybe I can do in like another lesson if you guys are interested in this kind of lesson formats. First time I've done something like this combining two keys. But again, I really think that it's important to start with something simple. Just like those 6 notes that exist in both, just leaving that C or C sharp out of there. And then maybe the next thing that you could do is taking these 6 notes and then doing them elsewhere on the neck. It's beautiful because of the symmetry, right? Open 2, 4, down a string. You see, you just start flying the more you do it. Now we could start it on the octave of that open D, which would be the 3rd fret on the B string. And now it's 3, 5, 7, 3, 5, 7. And then maybe you could get more like into like solo stuff if you want to, you know? Just thinking like, oh, there's that symmetrical thing that works in the key of D or the key of G. And I can always just remember, no matter what the chords are, I know that that's my key, it's my parent key. I always know that open 2, 4, open 2, 4 are fair game. And then 3, 5, 7, 3, 5, 7 are fair game. And then also those chords, D, E minor, B minor, G, are chords that are always going to work in either key, and you don't always have to remember exactly which one goes where, right? So I think once you start thinking about, all right, well, you know, I'm limiting myself to these specific spots, these shapes, which is how a lot of us start learning. It's like, oh, I got to learn, you know, the G major scale, and I got to learn, it's not even about always hitting the right notes so much as it's about avoiding the wrong notes. I feel like once you start maybe making more of a conscious effort and being like, oh, what would it sound like if I played a wrong note and added it to my right notes? Then I think you can maybe start thinking more in a complete context as a musician and be able to make like cool, just kind of like sounds and pivots and then cool chords like that G in the bass. Even though, you know, technically this does exist in both keys, but you know, just cool kind of little thing that you could do in, you know, a couple different keys. So thank you so much to Elixir Strings for sponsoring yet another video. Get yourself some Elixir Strings if you haven't done so already. And let me know if you want to see more videos like that. In the meantime, hit me up in the comment section, Instagram, or the website. I'll talk to y'all soon.